Hello, I am going to be talking about Pathos in this screencast. Uh, Pathos is used in rhetorical situations to make emotional based appeals for support towards your argument or claim. I'm just going to go over a couple techniques that you can use within your arguments to make them more appealing and gain more support. Martin Luther King Jr. changed American history with his speech, I Have a Dream. We talk about with him how the way you use your words can be incredibly influential. Considering he changed America's history with this speech, I mean, it's just a phenomenal one. Let's start by using analogies, very strong wording. You can really sell the emotion that you're trying to incorporate. With repetition, he says, but 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the changes of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro's lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. This whole section is going to cause emotions that are unpleasant: sadness, anger, disgust. With these analogies, you do have to think a little bit about them to gather the full point of them, and also allowing with these analogies for your audience to be engaged, and they have to think, not too much, but having them come up with these conclusions and emotions on their own instead of telling them on how they should feel. They don't have to question why they should feel that way or why they feel this way. So that's good. It makes it easier for you. Makes it more, more sound of reasoning for them. Then you move on to we're going to go to the main piece. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And that's very powerful that he takes that line out of an essential document to American history on why and how America is America. He also includes the words brotherhood, brothers and sisters. Family is another good way. You subconsciously have emotions connected to family, and he initiates those emotions through using, terms of family. Also using these situations that his audience has probably thought of, hopes for, shares this dream. He just puts it into way better wording, way better context phrasing with more emotion powered behind him. And that's really important. Is just if you can grab something that your reader agrees with and you put it into better words than they can, then that will definitely help with the pathos appeal. Pathos appeal, not a feel. And here he takes a very patriotic song and makes it almost as he calls on all of America and all of Americans to act and help make equal rights for all, and that skin color should have nothing to do with your rights. He puts almost a duty, something that we feel like we should do. because we are a part of this country. And he plays off of that with this. And the last part of it is he also leaves them with a scenario of when they reached all of their goals, when they reach all of their dreams, their dreams become true. Uh, he leaves them with the mindset of how they're going to feel, what's it going to be like to them. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Leaving them with those types of emotions and feelings is what charged them afterwards to keep. They could almost grasp. They could see it. They could everything that they want was almost there. It's right there, and this really kept them going. This motivated them past 5 minutes after he said this speech. It finally, with all of his wording, emotionally engaged all of America. And with all of these points, all of these analogies, all of this strong wording, made one of the most successful arguments of all time. And it's amazing that we can read it word for word. He relates, he creates connections, bonds, provokes emotions with his words. It's truly amazing. Moving on.
Addison was born June 16th, 2011. I couldn't have even asked for anything better. I felt like we were bringing home a healthy child, and around 9 months old we started noticing strange behaviors with Addison. At one point, Addison was having over 1,000 seizures in a day. It's hard watching her not understand. It's hard watching her have seizures and cry. She just has had such a rough time. Is epilepsy going to take my daughter from me?
In this example, we'll talk about imagery and forming a connection with your audience. She starts off, it's a mother, talking about bringing home her baby for the first time. Anybody who has a child that they brought home for the first time understands this. It immediately makes them think of themselves and their experiences. And then she starts talking about the seizures that start up, the hardships that follow. Is this disease going to take my child from me? Anybody who has a child in their life is going to then start reflecting, and it's engaging them in making them form thoughts and opinions and emotions on the aspect of a child suffering. What if that's their child? What if that's my child? That's what's going through their mind. I can't imagine having a child with a disease where I think about what if today's the day that it takes my child away from me. And that gathers that gathers sympathy for the argument that she's about to state.
Nothing the doctors tried worked. So we moved our entire family from Ohio to Colorado to try medical marijuana. I knew that there was something out there that it was going to save my child. These people were helping our child live again. We want to move back to Ohio, but we can't because her medicine is illegal there. It is time for marijuana reform. It's time to go home.
Okay, so when she states her argument, she states that I knew there's something out there that was going to save my daughter's life. And that they want to go home, but they can't because this plant is illegal here, and they pretty much state at the end, she states that there's a need for marijuana regulation changes, and it's done very well so that at the end the audience who may have been closed off to marijuana reform would have been like, no, no. If you had put that first and then given her example second, they probably would have changed the channel or stopped paying attention. But by forming that bond and gathering sympathy from them and then educating them, showing how much of a really amazing drug that this could be, that marijuana is, and then calling for reform. It's done very well, and emotions really make this effective, or the appeal to emotions make this really effective. Next, we're going to do imagery. We have Trump. Trump is very expressive with his face, and it's gathered a lot of posts and GIFs and attention on social media. Also, his opponents love to use this to their advantage. Normal candidate going after candidate bashing. The other one's a villain, the other one's a hero type of deal. You see that. Now, he is very humorous with the facial expressions he makes, and it's been very effective in creating comical relief in presidential elections, this presidential election, and which are typically in the past known to be boring, stressful, overwhelming. This adding of humor in any argument provides a break, a little bit of relief, and if you can make someone laugh, you've really taken the first step in opening the door to having them be, well, I guess, open to your argument. They're going to hear it out a little bit more. But you want to be very sure, like, this could go the wrong way very fast. You don't want to offend anyone. You don't want to be rude. You don't want to make bad jokes. Nobody likes a bad joke. So through images, humor, strong wording, engaging, forming connections with the audience, analogies, stories, personal experiences, there's so many ways to go about forming an emotional appeal. You just have to figure out the best one that's gonna work with your audience. I wouldn't suggest using Pathos once again with factual based arguments or addressing, say, like a scientist or a mathematician. You need to use facts for that. They don't really care how you feel, or how 2 plus 2 makes them feel. But other than that, I think that this appeal to emotion is incredibly effective. In addition to ethos and logos, it could really be the glue that creates a complete argument for you. If anybody has any questions, concerns, feel free to email me, and thanks for listening. I'll talk to you guys soon.